So we see the rebellion against Extinction Rebellion and these eco-maniacs expanding. Again, if you go and look at the funding of this group, they claim that they're transparent with their funding, but then anyone who donates over £5,000 to their group can have their name hidden. So all those top elitist donors do not appear on record. Working class people across London, across the UK, across many other countries are revolting against this rebellion, so-called. And then we have this story as to the true motivations of this group. Top story up on summit.news. Extinction Rebellion co-founder says climate protest is about ending idea heterosexuality is normal. Yes, he actually wrote this. Bear in mind the actual founder of this group, and this video is featured in my video, said that their goal was to overthrow democracies, and if those democracies didn't fall in line, some people may die. Those are the exact words of the founder of Extinction Rebellion, and now one of the co-founders, in his own lengthy article, which is posted on medium.com, says that this climate change protest has nothing to do with the climate. What's it about? Well, the co-founder of Extinction Rebellion writes, the climate protest, quote, isn't about the climate. That's his quote. Isn't about the climate. And is actually about toppling European civilization and ending the idea that heterosexuality is normal. What on earth does that have to do with the climate? Well, in a lengthy article for Medium called Extinction Rebellion Isn't About the Climate, Stuart Basden, who again is one of the co-founders, was there right at the start when this group emerged, reveals the true goals of the far-left environmentalist action group. He asserts at the beginning of this article that whatever climate problems exist cannot be fixed. In his own words, the co-founder of this group says that their entire raison d'etre is completely meaningless and that the movement should instead be focused on tearing down the entire capitalist system. By the way, China, the world's biggest polluter, isn't mentioned once in this entire article. Neither is India, neither are any of the biggest polluting countries, aside, of course, from the UK and the USA. Greta Thunberg, in her complaint to the UN, of course, did not include China on that list of countries she was complaining about. She has no plans to go to China and preach the gospel there. Well, now the co-founder claims that European civilization is to blame for spreading, quote, cruelty and violence throughout the globe for the last 600 years and bringing torture, genocide, carnage, and suffering to the ends of the earth. What does that have to do with modern-day CO2 emissions? Oh, and by the way, basically every group on the planet 600 years ago was doing exactly the same. He then cites numerous, quote, delusions which are to blame for this situation, including white supremacy, which is odd given that 99% of these protesters are white, patriarchy and class hierarchy, which is also a strange one given that most Extinction Rebellion protesters are upper middle class snobs who do little but inconvenience and harm the working class, as we saw today during the incident in Canning Town where they were literally dragged from the train by a bunch of working class people who weren't too happy with them. He writes, quote, again, this is the co-founder of Extinction Rebellion, Stuart Basden, quote, the delusions of heterosexism, heteronormativity, this is straight out of Gender Studies 101, by the way, propagate the idea that heterosexuality is normal and that other expressions of sexuality are deviant. So it's not about the climate, it's not about CO2 emissions, it's about changing the very notion that heterosexuality is the default biological breeding setting for humankind. This is what these people want, the overthrow of absolutely everything so they can remold it in their own image. Given what's happening across London, across many other countries, that is not a goal shared by many other people. And then at the end of the article, just to exemplify his deep-seated white guilt, he actually admits that he's been harassing his own family to send reparations to black families in America who share the same name to compensate again for his white guilt over slavery. So literally the co-founder of this group is writing that it's not about the climate, it's about overthrowing Western civilization, overthrowing the entire capitalist system, and overthrowing the very notion that heterosexuality is normal. In his own words, Those are the true goals. And what do we see going on in Norway right now in a similar context? Norwegians told to pee in the shower to save water. This was Frode Holt of the Water and Sewer Agency in Oslo, who appeared on Norwegian state television to raise awareness about the fact that Norway uses almost double the amount of water used in Denmark. He said, quote, "Do not run the water when you brush your teeth. Only wash with filled washing machines. Only buy washing machines that don't use so much water. Use a pot when you're watering plants in your garden. And pee in the shower in the morning." Remember, these are the same people who align themselves with muscle car Arnold Schwarzenegger, 400-foot luxury yacht owned by a Saudi oil billionaire, Leonardo DiCaprio, and 4 private jet trips in 11 days, Prince Harry. But you can't use water when you're brushing your teeth, you can't leave the tap running, and you have to pee in the shower. Heel, pleb. The host of the show challenged this statement, remarking, "Pee in the shower, you do know that many people will choke when they hear you say that." He said, "Yes, but it's a great idea. We can also brush our teeth in the shower. It's very good for the environment." Viewers of the show, similar to those people in that train station this morning, did not react warmly to the proposal, with one asking, "Why not also poop in the shower?" Meanwhile, in the Netherlands, Dutch farmers staged new revolt against climate change restrictions. As I said before the break, similar situation to what you had with the yellow vests in Paris. A gas tax hike was what brought them out on the streets against Macron initially. That's partially what he had to back down on to try and assuage those protesters. Didn't really work. They're still out on the streets. It just doesn't get as much media attention. Well, now farmers in the Netherlands are staging a new revolt against restrictions on livestock related to climate change, with one telling the state broadcaster how he is sick of being lectured about nature by middle-class city dwellers who have 2 plants on their balcony. Demonstrations began earlier this month. Of course, we covered it back on October 1st when they started. Why are the Dutch farmers protesting? Because the government came out and announced that they would have to slash their livestock production by up to 50% to meet commitments on reducing nitrogen emissions. And by the way, those same restrictions will not be levied against the aviation industry, only against working class and lower middle class farmers. Is it any wonder why they're absolutely furious, why they're clogging up major roads and highways and causing traffic jams across the country? They actually called out the Dutch army to try and deal with this, to try and put roadblocks up to stop them getting to the major cities. Didn't really work. Misha Bauer of the Farmers Defence Force told the state broadcaster, "Last year you didn't hear anything about nitrogen, and now it's suddenly a mortal question." Farmers also argue that their crucial role in food production is being overlooked and that they are being blamed for climate change. So basically, a Dutch court said the government has to impose these draconian regulations on nitrogen emissions. That would result in 50% livestock production reduction for the Dutch farmers, and they are out there on the streets defending their very livelihoods. We'll be back. Breaking news at Infowars.com.